This is HBR News number 458. I forgot the other part of the title. Trump convicted, Alex Jones shut down, Australia versus men behavior, where we discuss the news of the week and give it the Badger treatment. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Honey Badger Radio. Hope you guys are doing well this week and you're laughing at all of this insanity so that you are not consumed by it. I am your host, Brian, and I am joined by Hannah, and Dr. Rannemercam has returned.
Hello.
From his break. Mike, how was it? How did you enjoy seeing the fam?
It was good. I was just seeing because my parents are moving house in a month or so. So I was, plus my mum was sick, so I was looking after her and helping my dad with heavy things in the attic and stuff. So it wasn't so much a holiday as me doing stuff that had to be done. But I drank a great deal less. I even attempted a no alcohol challenge for a lot of it.
Oh yeah? What brought that on?
I generally only drink on Tuesdays and Thursdays because I need to drink to talk. I'm painfully quiet when I'm sober, as you'll know.
I do know. Yeah. Well, it's good to see you back, Mike. It's really good to have you here. So, welcome back to the news show. I'm sure that everyone is going to be very excited to see that. And yeah. So anyway, we got a great show lineup for you guys today. At least as great as we could make it, considering the circumstances. So please be sure to continue the conversations both in the chat as well as the comment section. Also, let us know if we sound okay. I've been doing a lot of experimenting behind the scenes to try to make the most out of everything. So I am always open to hearing feedback from the audience if you are willing to give it. Okay. So this week we're going to be talking about the conviction of Trump, which I know has been going around, but I feel like we would be remiss not to at least mention that we are also aware of the thing that everyone else is aware of. We're going to be talking about what immediately followed that, which is what appears to be the shutting down of Alex Jones's show Infowars, and more. Also something sort of very recent that I added on at the last minute. So stick around, it's going to be a good time, and be sure to join us afterwards for the patron only show, where we're going to be going through the last rant Zerker for Magic Clips. Allison has asked me to do that with the patrons. The patrons have good taste. They're really great about giving feedback. I'm not the one responsible for uploading them, so stop asking me, but supposedly we're going to start uploading these clips that we have been compiling or amassing, archiving for whatever reason. But yeah, they're fun to go through. So we're going to be looking at I think the last video that we did was talking about the Boss Babe thing. And I think it was Hannah Cox, and she was talking about how, boss babes are having a hard time finding men because men aren't measuring up and all this other nonsense. And Allison used it to sort of talk about a different thing, like a series of studies that seem to show that women that are more likely to be assertive in that career driven way also tend to be a bit grapey. So that was kind of an interesting, because obviously this is one of these things you're never supposed to say about the golden uterus. But yes, so that will be the patron show. Yeah, go ahead, Hannah.
That'll be interesting because Peter Wright posted from a study. He posted a chart from a study, or not a chart, but a list from a study that actually has been around for a while. I think it was done in the 90s or the early 2000s. And I actually bought the book that it's in because I was interested in learning more about the subject matter. And about 1 in 5 women has admitted, according to that study, by the time they are in college, to having used force to
that's the one.
Man's no.
Yeah, that's what that was the study we were looking at.
Right. Mm-hmm. And then on top of that, you had 3 in 10 women admitting to using somebody's underage incapability, like incompetence to consent or refuse intelligently right? To override their ability to say no. So that's pretty sick. It really was scary information. It explained a lot to me, but that's the numbers that we were getting for female rape victims. The same statistic that we are told for female rape victims: 1 in 5 women is raped by the time they get to college. The survey was done on college women, so this is by the time they get to college, right? 1 in 5 women in that survey admitted to using or threatening. 1 in 4 admitted to threatening force. 1 in 5 admitted to using force.
Yeah. That excuse me. That was the study we were looking at, and a couple of other ones too that were sort of similar.
Yeah, so. And that just kind of turns everything on its head.
Mm-hmm. It does make things.
Women are animals, and so are men. Okay, just don't forget that women are also animals. They're not fucking goddesses or angels or shit.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, you still have 3 out of 4 of us that can take no for an answer.
Yeah, right. All right. Well, anyway, if you want to join us in the Patreon show to go through that video, you have to become a badger yourself by going to feedthebadger.com/subscribe. $5 a month will get you into our Discord, where you'll be able to enjoy all of the additional content and all of these sort of communal activities that these people get up to. It is actually a very active and thriving Discord server, I must say. I started one myself for Honey Badger Arcade. It's a lot smaller, so I can understand how it can be very difficult to manage as many people as there is in the Honey Badger Radio Discord. But it is a pretty good place. So please consider joining us by going to feedthebadger.com/subscribe. And of course, if you want to send us a message, go to feedthebadger.com/just-a-tip, and we will endeavor to give you a Badger Chan and read your message. So feed the Badger Chan by going to just the tip. And with that said, let's get into today's stories. I wanted to start with one. I think I'll start with this one just briefly, extra. I didn't have this included. I hope it doesn't get us in trouble, but I don't see why it would. So I'm going to go ahead and put it up because I think that it is worth mentioning, and I think we'd be remiss not to mention this. So do you know that Fauci has admitted he's made stunning admissions about the science of social distancing, COVID origins, the lab leak, and his personal emails to take away from his bombshell testimony in Congress. Of course, it's only a bombshell because he was willing to admit it. I'm not going to go through the whole article or whatever, but I wanted to mention that Dr. Anthony Fauci has told us what we already knew for multiple years.
Yeah, you have no idea. When I saw that, I actually had to walk away from my computer and punch things. This is my parents died, both of them. I lost both of my parents, and my mom's last month of her life, of her conscious life, because she spent more than a week in a vegetative state, and we went in to see her every day and held her hand and talked to her and prayed and begged God to give her back. And this man kept my family from seeing her during the last month of her life. The last month that she was conscious, she could only talk on the phone. And she was scared. I've never seen her scared. But she was scared. And this man kept us from going in. I couldn't go in and hold my mom's hand when she was scared. Because of this man. This man is no doctor. First, do no harm. You take an oath. And he violated it. He is as bad as the Nazi doctors, plus because they thought they had reasons for what they were doing. They thought they were doing something important. He just fucking made it up as he went along. When I say that I think that my parents are murder victims by the state. My mom died from COVID pneumonia, and I couldn't be there because I would have gotten arrested trying to go in to be with her. And my dad died from apparent reaction to the vaccine, which he got because my mom died from COVID pneumonia. Like, yeah. I know this man's going to face no consequences, and it makes me sick.
Even though it may look like he's just following orders, as many of the Nazis said, like he's following orders from certain American officials in high up shadowy places, or indeed Chinese officials in high up shadowy places. Don't forget that he pulled the same shit in the 80s with all that AIDS nonsense. There's a documentary called The Real Anthony Fauci that you'll really need to see. Like, even if he is following orders, he did not follow them reluctantly. He's always been a giant piece of shit. He's never been interested in helping people, let alone doing no harm. He's always been in the business of harming people for as much money and personal gratification as he can possibly muster. He's possibly the worst person in history. My Genghis Khan, fuck Genghis Khan. This guy we've only just begun to scratch the surface of how many people this guy's killed. I know it's not just him, but he's one of the linchpins in this fucking operation. And he at least he's one of the ones we can see, because he's been pushed into the forefront. And yeah, maybe he'll be the fall guy, but he deserves to be the fall guy. Many people deserve to be the fall guys in this, and we can at least start with the one guy who was perhaps always intended to be the fall guy. But if he actually is operated as the fall guy, I'm not going to feel sorry for him as the fall guy, because this is his business. This is why so many fictional supervillains are mad scientists. This is why we have the trope of the mad scientist. It's not just fictional. It's this guy. He's worse than any fictional supervillain, because he's killed more people than any fictional supervillain, and will kill even more. It remains to be seen. This is just, we only know of the people he's killed. We only know of a fraction of the reported deaths, or even diagnosed deaths that he and his program are responsible for. We'll never quite fully understand the extent of how many people have died, because it's so shadowy what spike proteins and lipid nanoparticles can do to it. They can affect people in all sorts of different ways. Loads of people have just had heart failures and been diagnosed with nothing but a random heart failure, or pneumonia that's just diagnosed as nothing but random pneumonia, or just people that died from old age, because people do just die from old age, don't they? Yeah, but there's a bunch of 20-year-olds also dying, so maybe the 60-year-olds are also... We don't know. We just don't know. And we'll never know. Like, the vast majority of people he's killed will never be diagnosed as having been killed by him. So no matter how evil you think he is, he's even more evil.
And when it comes to the statement about just following orders, I want to point something out. A lot of people don't know how the American government bureaucracy works, but people in positions like Fauci's position are advisors to politicians that take civil service positions and then need to make decisions in professional areas where they don't have the education, like medicine, or if they're an attorney business, or if they're a businessman, law that doesn't relate to business. And in his case, it's medicine, right? He was the advisor that said this is what we should do. And if a civil servant or politician, and I separate the two because just because you take a civil service position doesn't make you a civil servant if your goals are your own and not the people's goals, right? But they will trust these people to make the right decisions and give the right advice because they don't know enough to know when they're being told something that is not true. And everything that Reagan gets blamed for in regard to AIDS, Fauci. And Reagan was the first president to fund AIDS research because he was the first president to know about it, and he doubled the funding every year.
I think that the actual AIDS, actually there's a patent. I don't know who owns it, but I think there's a patent. There's a patent for
the
number
medications.
For the
disease.
For the disease, yes. There are some of these. There are some diseases, and I think AIDS is one of them, or some variant, or HIV or something that has a patent. Somebody owns it.
Well, in any case, this is when I talk about the importance of reducing the size of government and how there really isn't a problem in the world today, a big all-encompassing social ill or a big all-encompassing legal ill in the world today that hasn't been caused by government or made worse by government. I'm talking about this. Because the lab leak, the research at the lab, the origin of the virus that killed millions traces back to an unelected official who has been embedded in the government bureaucracy in the United States. Not statute, but term limit. They shouldn't be allowed to hold office more than that. Something apparently has gone wrong with.
Yeah, it was my OBS switch scene.
Okay.
I fixed it. I switched it back. We're good.
There are people effing in the chat for.
Yeah, I accidentally
disappeared.
I was trying to adjust something. Made a mistake. I apologize. My bad. We're back. It was only for a few seconds. Okay. Well, any other, this was not one of my stories that I meant to pick, but I picked it because I know that we were all impacted by this. And it was just confirming something that we already knew.
Well, you know that there are people whose kids committed suicide because of the lockdowns. There are men,
businesses
whose families went bankrupt because they lost their businesses, they lost their jobs, they lost their income. The amount that they got in unemployment didn't, it covered for poor people to not work, but it didn't cover for people whose income was higher to not work. So kids committing suicide and people losing their jobs pretty much forever. My husband's job went away forever.
Businesses permanently closing.
Will never open up again.
People were unable to attend weddings, funerals, births. Yeah.
And for the last, since the lockdown started, I have been on consistent overtime at work because so many people quit in fear, because I work in healthcare.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, and Fauci's never going to be held accountable, but bear this in mind, one day he will die. And
Yes.
that day we will all sing, oh, we oh.
Yeah.
The witch is dead. And yeah.
Yep. Oh, well, anyway, let us know what you guys think about. Oh, go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, and we can dance on his grave and piss on it and cough on it for good measure. I look forward to that.
Poof on it. All right. Well, let us know what you guys think about this one in the comments. I know that, it wasn't really one of our stories. So this show might be a slightly longer than average sausage, but I wanted to cover that. And I did get a super chow from Meredith G, who gave us $50. Thank you, Meredith, and $5. Did not, and she just said honey for the Badgers, HBR news number 458. So thank you so much for that. All right. So with that said, let us move on to the actual first story. And yeah, let's get on that. So first, this one was written to us for us by Mr. Mike J. A New York City jury has declared former President Trump guilty of all 34 charges of felony misdemeanor falsifying business records. The jury deliberated for less than 10 hours before reaching said verdict. Trump will be sentenced on July the 11th. It is currently unclear what sentence he may face, as nothing in this trial has been normal. Penalties could range from a simple fine, seeing as Trump is a first-time offender with no previous record, to 4 years in prison, possibly for each charge. Experts suggest that the sentence of 4 years for each charge would be served concurrently, not consecutively, but it's hard to tell in a trial such as this with an activist judge running the show. It seems to me that Mike J was being very, very, he had a lot of restraint when he wrote this, I think.
Everyone's said everything. Everyone's been chatting everything they can chat for the last 4 or 5 days. And yeah, to everyone who said there's no way they'll impeach Trump, to everyone who said there's no way they'll impeach Trump again, to everyone who said there's no way Biden will become president, and there's no way they'll take Trump to court, and there's no way they'll find him guilty, narrator's voice, you are here. I really don't know how you take it all. The constant crushing disappointment and the bitter pill of all your predictions being so wrong. I don't know how you can face yourself and the world knowing how wrong you've been and how much false hope you gave or tried to give to everyone you managed to convince of your white pill delusions. But there's an easy and efficient way to stop doing all this, and it's to stop underestimating just how evil the Democrat deep state is. And when someone accurately predicts how evil they are, consider dispensing with the thought-terminating cliche of don't be so black-pilled. If you're at all impressed by the Alex Jones was right jar, do notice it's a child's piggy bank compared with the Fort Knox that is the black pillars were right jar. We warned you about Anthony Fauci long ass ago, and far too many fatuous suckers didn't believe us. Well, we're still warning you about the abyss of pure evil that is the Democrat deep state and the bottomless extent of what they can and will do to maintain their hegemony. So do prick up your ears and listen to me for a second. Here's what's going to happen. First, they are going to put Donald Trump in prison. But they wouldn't do that. The judge specifically said he wasn't interested in doing that. Oh, okay. It must be true then. He seems like a straight shooter. He definitely doesn't have an agenda that he'd gaslight under the rug at any opportunity. Shut the fuck up. You cannot be this stupid. Okay, so first they'll put him in prison. And as we know, that wouldn't stop him from winning the election. And if he wins the election from prison, he can simply pardon himself, and all their plans will be for naught. So what do you suppose will happen secondly after they've put him in prison? After they've put him in the one place where he won't have access to his private security, let alone the government security detail he's supposed to have as a former president. What typically happens to anyone who threatens the megalomaniacal bloodlust of the Clintons the moment their back is turned and the cameras are mysteriously malfunctioning? He's gonna slip on a banana peel in his cell one night and accidentally snag himself on an unfortunately placed loop of bed sheets, right? They can't do that. There's no way they would do that. They did everything else that we said they wouldn't do, and they got away with it scot-free every step of the way, but they wouldn't do that. Yeah, you keep saying that, and you keep being wrong. And sooner or later, your hopium is going to run out instantaneously. That time will be when they kill Donald Trump in prison, and they get away with it, and there's nothing you can do to stop it. I mean, if there is something you can do to stop it, by all means, please do it. Hurry up and get a job as a screw in Rikers Island. Guard Trump's cell morning, noon, and night, and keep your wits about you when Hillary Clinton turns up with a fake mustache and a garrote wire. Knock yourself out, or rather, don't. But in the event that there's nothing you can do to stop it, the very least you can do is be prepared for it. Consider putting down the hopium pipe for a second and at least imagine the eventuality that the Democrat deep state can and will make the worst possible thing that can happen. If you're constantly high on hopium, one day you'll find yourself with so much mental organ damage that you can no longer ingest any more hopium, let alone enough to appease your habit. And you'll go into withdrawal symptoms, and you'll have a Kraken-sized hangover that will crash you into the ocean with no flotation device inside. I'm not a real doctor. This is not medical advice.
More of a doctor than Anthony Fauci.
Yes, but as far as I know, if you're hitting a drug so hard that cold turkey can kill you, you should probably cut down. Get to the point where cold turkey will not kill you. Call me black-pilled if you like. I'm not trying to depress you. I'm not trying to drag you into a nihilistic oubliette. On the contrary, I'm trying to help you. You can hope for the best all you like, but if you are not prepared for the worst, then your hope is less than useless. It's actually setting you up for a horrendous fall. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they won't kill Donald Trump in prison. Maybe it'll all work out for the best. And if it does, I'll eat my words. But you know what? I'll be happy to eat my words because I'll be relieved. I'll be delighted to have been wrong. That's the gamble I make with myself. And it's a gamble I can't lose. If I'm wrong, I'll be relieved and elated. If I'm right, nothing happens. On the other hand, hope is the opposite gamble. A gamble you can't win. If you're right, nothing happens. If you're wrong, you face system shock and devastating disappointment. It gets more and more devastating every time you roll those dice. So I'm not telling you to lose all hope, folks. Hopium is like any other drug. If you're going to use it in moderation. Take it every now and again during some kind of celebration, and it's fine. But if you're strung out and stuffing your face with it all the time, while your kids are wearing rags and starving in the other room, then sooner or later you're going to have a very hard fall, and your friends will laugh at you and grift off your misfortune for as many news cycles as they can muster. And I'm not going to gloat in a flurry of I told you so's. I'll be here for you, even at your lowest ebb. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free, etc. That's what I do, and it's why I do what I do. Even if you were a total dick to me when you were mashed off your skull on hopium, I understand. I've been there. I used to have faith in humanity too, and when you get where I am now, I will welcome you into the fold. I'll teach you how to live the afterlife. It's not as difficult as it sounds. It's actually rather liberating when you can embrace it. It's good to be back, folks. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe and leave a comment below. Sharing is caring and so on.
So the way to deal with the white pill and the black pill is this. Everybody always says hope for the best, but prepare for the worst. That's only partly right. You have to prepare for both. Now think of it this way. If you were thinking of the worst being a total societal collapse, and you had to be prepared to be a survivalist and to live without all of the amenities of modern civilization, you wouldn't also want to cripple your ability to live within modern civilization, because what if that collapse doesn't come and you still have to pay your bills, right? So if whichever one you think is the best and whichever one you think is the worst, you got to prepare for both. And I'm couching it that way because I do know people that think total societal collapse and the end of civilization and a return to an earlier way of life would be the best. So because of how bad things are, and I can't really entirely argue with that, but I also can't really entirely argue with the fact that most people aren't prepared to do that, and there would be mass suffering if that happened. And so I can't think of it as the best myself. I understand the perspective. I just don't agree with it because I'm that idiot that wants to save everybody and not just the smart people, right? So there's that. That's the first thing I will point out. Second thing is this, and before I say this, I'm going to remind you, I just talked about my parents, all right? Trump trusted Fauci. That was a huge mistake. That was a huge, huge error in judgment. And that was why I had, during the election last year, hoped that we would have Vivek Ramaswamy as our candidate, opposing Biden with the most chance to win, but we don't. And I would rather have the opportunity to vote for him than the situation that we're in now. But this case, if it stays the way that it is right now, if it stands as it is right now, if it's upheld, everybody is in trouble. And as much as I am not happy with Trump, and as much as I am not happy with what happened, and that'll be putting it mildly, I still have to support the man's right to due process. And I'm same way with Biden's son, right? That guy, there's all kinds of evidence that's been publicly put out there against him. But I look at everything that's been put out there and revealed about his situation, his behavior, his relationship with his family and everything. And to me, it looks like a very fucked up situation in which his own father exploited his drug addict son for money and did nothing to help him. And having had a drug addict in my family and watched those communications go back and forth, and having taken part in those communications, I have a little sympathy for the man. And I'm not trusting that any particular political party is going to be fair to him. Either the left or the right is going to be fair to him. I don't think that's true. And so I think those two cases are going to fuck up due process. The access the general public has to due process in ways that are going to have implications for decades if they don't go well, if they're not handled properly by the higher judiciary. And I hope that every ruling in the lower courts in both of their cases gets appealed and taken to higher courts and straightened out, because both of them are being handled politically. And I'm not saying that I think anything that Biden's son did. I can't think of his first name, damn it.
Hunter?
Hunter
Biden.
It's Hunter.
Yeah. My brain just wanted to get rid of that name for some reason, but I can't. I'm not going to say that I think anything he did was good or okay or excusable. But there's a different way to handle it when something is done because of an addiction, because somebody is easily manipulated and coerced by the people around him, versus, you know, something that's done out of pure malice. And I haven't seen evidence of pure malice. I've seen evidence of a guy being completely fucked in the head and taken advantage of. Now, that doesn't mean that he's completely innocent, right? Now, with regard to Trump, yeah, he's a shrewd businessman. He's a very shrewd businessman, and he's made a lot of money because he is. I don't know that he's that shrewd of a politician, right? He's a shrewd negotiator, but I think he's more of a shrewd negotiator when he's negotiating with people who will act at least in their own interest, in the interest of their constituents, right? A business that you negotiate with, the owner of a business or the board of a business and so on, their constituents are their stockholders, and they want to make money. They have it may be not pure in terms of innocent, but it's a pure goal. It's not subversive, right? There's not some other thing behind it that you don't know about or that they're trying to hide that changes what the incentives are and everything. But with politics, it's a totally different story. They lie to you, they lie to themselves, they lie to each other, and they don't have open goals. Not when they're talking to their opponents. And that kind of negotiation becomes difficult. And if he trusted someone like Fauci, if I was going to have a faith in a person, that doesn't help at all, right? So this isn't, me just blindly supporting Trump. I am looking at the fact it's been reported and discussed that the basis for Alvin Bragg's case violated the Fifth Amendment, the requirement for a felony charge to be spelled out in an indictment, and the criminal elements have to have been established. The probable cause has to have been shown. There are things that were not present that should have been present in order to not violate the Fifth Amendment. Violates the state constitution of New York, and it is just a completely unheard of way of combining federal and state law to create a crime that didn't exist. And they did it strictly out of political goals. Just to take down a political opponent, just to take down somebody who said things they didn't like and had considerations they didn't like. It doesn't matter who they did that to. That's terrifying. That's if the state can make up crimes against you and just borrow from this law and that law and combine them together and with a little sleight of hand, magically parlay a bunch of perfectly legal actions into a violation of a new made-up law that doesn't exist. They can do that to anybody, right? And if they go through violate Hunter Biden's due process rights and create a bunch of precedents that this or that you normally would have a right to, what level of exculpatory evidence you can submit in court, who can be talked to, and what can be brought up against you, and so on. And that stands. You and I have no hope. That hopium can go right down the toilet. So I don't care who you support or who you hate. These cases, we need to watch and pay attention where there are due process questions brought up in media, because if there are issues with these cases and they are not remedied in the higher courts, your due process rights are in the process of being destroyed completely. They were already under attack by the 3 laws that Biden wrote in the 90s that broke them down. But this is bad. Like, this is really serious shit. This is the government using both parties' hatred of each other as cover for just completely dismantling your civil rights. Pay attention.
All right, well, let us know what you guys think about this one in the comments. Going to move on to the next story. Let me just make sure I didn't miss it. I did get a super chow. It's gone now. I'll just read it on the screen. This is from Richard Pierre, gives us $5 and says, this does speak volumes about how New Yorkers claim to be so much more enlightened than anyone outside of the 5 boroughs, while handing out a verdict that is reminiscent of what would be expected from a southern states court when a particular minority was on trial. I'm not even sure if that happened to this extent, but I understand. I take what you're meaning. I take your meaning. All right, well, thank you for that, Richard Pierre. I guess we'll see. I mean, like, at the end of the day, I'm not surprised by any of this. I knew they were going to do whatever they had to do. I think that they're really afraid of what might happen if, he gets into office again, I guess. And they're just, throwing everything that they can at this to make him go away. And if you don't believe that he could get murdered in prison, look at Derek Chauvin. As soon as he got into a larger prison, he was stabbed 22 times by a Black Lives Matter activist who believed that he killed George Floyd and acted on it because the media said so. So he listened to the TV and then acted on that. And why wouldn't this happen, to anybody else that they want to get rid of, really? And we got another super chow from, let me just put this on the screen. Well, actually, it doesn't say who it's from, but it says it's from HBR News 458 for $5. Thank you. I like feeding the badgers. I present the middle finger to the government, the deep state, the swamp, etc. Thank you for that. Appreciate it. And let us know what you guys think about this one in the comments. I mean, at the end of the day, like, obviously, these are things that we cannot, like, do anything about per se. But what else we're going to do other than just speak the truth and hope that, we can motivate people to act. So anyway, let us know what you guys think about that in the comments. Let us move on to the next story. So this is from The Independent. Oh, and it's related in a way.
Really quick.
Yeah.
Jen Bottle asks, is Chauvin dead?
No, he did not die.
Yeah.
He was stabbed 22 times and they moved him, but there was an attempt on his life. It was like literally the guy was trying to kill him.
Yeah, he very much could have been from that.
Yes.
And he's still in recovery from that.
Yeah, he's recovering from that. It's absolutely just awful. I mean, imagine, just awful.
And
and of course,
fortunate that he didn't die of sepsis from that, because that's usually people who die from stabbing. If they don't bleed out on the scene, the thing that kills them is sepsis, because most blades are actually pretty filthy, especially if they're concealed. Yeah,
unless he didn't make it in prison and it was given to him. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised, because the guy was like with a gang or something, But
to conceal a weapon in prison, you got to put it in a shoe or in your pants. You got to put it somewhere where there's some pretty nasty bacteria.
Yeah.
So like I said, he's fortunate if that he got medical treatment right away, and that could have been delayed enough that and I'm sure they probably gave him some pretty heavy antibiotics, because if he didn't bleed out and then he did die of sepsis, there would have been lots of questions.
Mm-hmm.
And need I remind you, Jeffrey Epstein did die, but
Yes.
it was a suicide, so it's a completely different thing.
That's not at all related. Okay, so this
one other thing Meredith G pointed out, Biden's government is prosecuting his son, the same son who could testify against his father and seems to hate said father. So that is something to pay attention to as well.
I got
he's not going to get fair treatment from either side.
Yeah. I got another super chow from Richard Bier for $5, and he says, have you heard that the Washington Post is in financial trouble and might go out of business? I have not, but I mean, what will likely happen instead is that they will simply sell the Washington Post to another like commie website like The Guardian or Slate or whoever's doing the best. They're all the same anyway. It'll probably be CNN or MSNBC or something of the like. Maybe Bill Gates will just buy it himself. All right. Well, anyway, we got to get to the next story. So around the exact same, right after the Trump thing happened, a significant ruling by U.S. bankruptcy judge Christopher Lopez removed an attorney and a restructuring executive from overseeing the case. This is involving Alex Jones, by the way, Infowars. The ruling was part of broader legal troubles for Jones, who has faced substantial financial penalties for his false claims about the 2012 Sandy Hook Elementary School massacre. Jones and his company, Free Speech Systems, have been ordered to pay nearly $1.5 billion to the victims' families following multiple defamation lawsuits. More lawfare, how about that? Despite filing for bankruptcy, Jones's company has proposed a reorganization plan that would pay him a salary of $520,000 per year, while setting aside $7 million to $10 million annually to pay the creditors, including the Sandy Hook families. This plan has sparked controversy and scrutiny over the financial management and transparency of Jones's operations on social media. So what happened was he basically said the feds were coming to shut his show down. I don't know if he's been back up ever since then, but this was like shortly after the verdict on Trump. And I don't think that's an accident. I mean, some people will say, you can't really tell, whatever. But if you look at it in the like what happened to Chauvin, what happened to Enrique Tarrio, what happened to Alex Jones, what happened to Donald Trump, and there's probably lots of other examples. I'm sorry, but I can't not see that there is a pattern emerging. So, what are the reactions? They've been mixed. Many users have expressed outrage over the large salary Jones stands to receive despite his legal obligations, while others have focused on the ongoing lack of accountability and transparency in his financial dealings. The bankruptcy proceedings continue to attract significant public and media attention as they unfold. He basically appeared on social media breaking down in tears and said that they were going to shut his show down. So, and that they were going to show up and take his stuff, like liquidate his assets. I don't know if that's actually happened, but I thought it was way too coincidental not to mention. So we might be seeing the last of Infowars. I don't know.
So they're going to kill Alex Jones in prison. No. I mean, if he ran for president and he had any feasible chance of winning, they almost certainly would, but he's not. And as it stands, he's far more useful as a living, breathing sort of totem of the unspeakable. What he represents in smear merchant fiction is more important, more useful than anything he actually does. Like when Pierre Poilievre stands up in Canadian Parliament and reels off all the receipts of the insane tyrannical shit Justin Trudeau has done. Trudeau doesn't even need to defend himself. He can just go, yeah, but you've been endorsed by Alex Jones. The end. Yeah. And all his chickens just cluck. We've heard of that guy. Apparently he's a wrong un. We've no idea what he believes. We've never even heard a word he has to say. But our beloved masters have assured us that he's the bad man, and that's good enough for us. Jab me harder, Daddy. Crush me with fresh horses. And this will go on because Alex Jones is so milkable for the memes, be they funny memes or damning memes. So even if his studio does get shut down, they'll still let him continue somewhere else. They'll rinse him for as much money as they can, as they already are. But they'll let him keep running his mouth off, because they'll just ignore all the pioneering prescience he has when it comes to massive government psyops like 9/11 and the clot shot Holocaust, and they'll just focus on the stuff he says about the demons and the pot-bellied hobgoblins and the gay frogs. And it's the same everywhere else, at least in the controlled atmosphere of the open source media that we can all find on the internet. The people who can easily be highlighted out of context will always be held up as, look at this crazy person saying this crazy thing. They'll hold this up knowing that the idiot masses will never look beyond the hit pieces and actually examine the rest of the content. They'll just believe whatever headline they see on the TV, because the TV is their primary sense organ, and anything else will fall by the wayside. Much like they'll elevate the most simplistic edgelords of the red pill community, as they're called now, particularly the very latest of the Johnny-come-latelys, and they'll bring them all the way to the mainstream news. They'll even make them part of the school curriculum. Warning, kids, these are hideous misogynists who are out there, and you have to familiarize yourself with everything we tell you they believe. Yes, Timmy, I see your hand is up. Yes, Mom, have you heard of the honey badgers? There's no such thing. There's no such thing as the honey badgers. Put that out of your mind entirely. Now turn to chapter 12 in your textbooks. Why Andrew Tate is an incel with a small dick.
Who's the new red pill bro that dropped? Is there like a new red pill bro that dropped?
I don't know.
I don't. Yeah, I don't. I was just curious. Like, I haven't been surveilling the landscape. But I'm sorry, Mike. You can finish your thought.
Yeah. So there seem to be three basic tiers when it comes to enemies of the state. DEFCON 1 is the Donald Trump tier. Those who are to be summarily executed, no matter how many laws we have to cut down. DEFCON 2 is the Alex Jones tier. They are to be kept alive and talked about and referenced at every opportunity, but never actually listened to. And DEFCON 3 is us, the likes of the honey badgers, those who are not to be talked about under any circumstances. If anyone does talk about us, you act like the director of the WHO when someone mentions Taiwan. You pretend you didn't hear them. You change the subject. You randomly leave the Zoom call. You point to the far corner of the room and go, "Look, a spider!" Whoop 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 whoop. And I suppose this is preferable to being killed in prison, but I don't know. There's something a little bit vacuous about not even being worth the hit pieces, let alone the hit jobs. Oh, well, you're listening to Honey Badger Radio. Please leave a comment, hit like, subscribe. Sharing is caring, and so.
Yeah. For the people that are pissed off about the salary that he would have been paid under this, that's minuscule compared to what a lot of CEOs end up with after a company goes bankrupt. And in fact, it is so common for them to rake in millions during a bankruptcy process that in 2005, federal law was changed to place limitations. A lot of companies, when bankruptcy takes place, like now obviously Alex Jones sort of runs his own stuff, right? But a lot of companies have a board, and a lot of companies during bankruptcy, when they're restructuring, they want to retain the CEO. They want to retain like key people in the company, key insiders, because they actually are knowledgeable in terms of what they're doing and everything, and they don't want to start over from scratch with people who are completely unfamiliar with the company. And so they used to offer these huge incentive bonuses, even more than they do now. And section 503C of the federal code has some limitations that were placed on that, and some rules that have to be followed in order to do that. And so when a company is filing for bankruptcy, the attorneys that handle that case have to navigate those rules and make sure that the payout that is being given to the CEO is not illegal. And they do that. And even in 2012, there were a lot of outrages, being expressed over this. There were a lot of, even now, even today, as companies are going bankrupt, you will hear about, the CEO got paid this many, $1 million, while this many people got fired, laid off, no severance package, or tiny severance package, and so on. And it's because they do try to keep people in place, because those companies, they go bankrupt, right? But they don't go away necessarily. Some do, but they don't all just disappear. And so this isn't really what you're getting outraged over is hype. This isn't really the unusual weird thing that it's being made out to be. The unusual weird thing about it is that it's actually not $1 million or more per year. So just pointing that out. And the only reason that you're being given that hype is because of who he is and how much wrongthink he has expressed. That's it. Just never believe that shit, right? You see that shit in the news? It's bullshit. Sorry, guys. That's really all I got to say about it.
Yeah, I've finished all I have to
Sorry.
say.
I had the wrong button pressed. I was just going to agree with you. I had the wrong unmute button pressed. So, yeah. All right. Well, that sounds good. Let us know what you guys think about this in the comments. I think that Alex is going to be okay. Yes, he's probably going to lose all of his stuff. I think that the purpose is to just make it to where he can't really do his job. But I think that he's going to get a lot of support. I think, he's good friends with Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan has fuck you money out the wazoo. He works with Crowder. Crowder's got a lot of money. They're probably going to bail him out in some fashion. He'll probably still be around in some fashion. But I think the whole thing is, I think that what we're seeing with Trump and Alex Jones, why I'm bringing this up, is that there's going to be, because the election is coming up, there's going to be tremendous pressure. Tremendous. And it's going to be there's going to be censorship. There's going to be bans. There's going to be all kinds of lawfare, all kinds of stuff, because these people are really starting to circle the wagons and they're trying to hold on to their power. And frankly, I think just based on conversations going on Twitter and everywhere else, I think their narratives are starting to fall apart. I think people are starting to see it now. This is not a white pill. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying that since the only weapon we have is the truth, I'm glad that more people are trying to use it. And I think that should be the primary focus. No one is saying that we're going to save the world in a few months, right? But I think that people are really getting sick and tired of this shit. For example, not that I picked this as a story, but I recently learned that Nigel Farage has kind of returned to the public space. Is it going to mean much? I don't know. But I think that it is encouraging that people are saying something. Right? Even if it proves fruitless, something has to be said, and maybe it's what we need. So anyway, I hope that Alex Jones figures something out. I hope that things work out, but who knows? So we're gonna move on to the next story. Let us know what you guys think about this one in the comments. Make sure I didn't miss any super chows or anything. No, I did not. All right, so we're talking Australia. It's time for a bit of a subject change, but I thought this was interesting. Too interesting to pass up. So Australia is addressing its, quote, domestic violence crisis. Did you know that Australia is having a domestic violence crisis? Guess which direction it goes? With Victoria appointing someone named Tim Richardson as the inaugural parliamentary secretary for men's behavior change. That doesn't sound Orwellian at all. And the first the first position of its kind in the country. Richardson will focus on the impact of the internet and social media on male attitudes towards women and on fostering respectful relationships. This appointment is part of broader efforts to tackle gender-based violence, which has led to the deaths of 31 women in Australia so far this year. Oh my God, 31 women in a year? That sounds like an absolute epidemic. The initiative aims to shift the focus from viewing domestic violence solely as a women's issue to recognizing it as a problem that men must actively address. So a women's issue that only men can give a shit about. Tarang Chawla, founder of Not One More Nikki, expressed hope that this role could lead to tangible changes by involving those who work directly with men to understand and alter their behaviors. However, reactions have been mixed. Some, like Jane Hume of the opposition Liberal Party, questioned the effectiveness of the appointment, suggesting it might be more symbolic than impactful. Richardson responded to this criticism by emphasizing the need for positive role models and breaking away from gender stereotypes, which would mean that what is a male role model if you're... Never mind. This move follows Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese's announcement of a rapid review into preventing domestic violence, which he described as a, quote, national crisis, end quote. Albanese highlighted the necessity of a societal effort to combat domestic violence, stating that women should not bear the sole responsibility for ending violence against women. What?
A lot of us in the UK, well, some of us, very few of us, have talked about, since we have a minister for women, maybe we could sort of balance that out by also having a minister for men. After all, the full title of the existing sinecure is Minister for Women and Equalities. It seems rather intrinsically odd that such a thing is not balanced out by such a thing as men and equalities. You would think that would be the kind of thing that would make like sense, maybe. But I have to wonder if that's what's happened in Australia as a result of that kind of conversation. Someone somewhere inquired as to the possibility of having a minister for men, and this is what happened. Some bright spark in the government saw it as an opportunity to lay even more legal minefields between men and any semblance of freedom. You see, governments seem to default to that, no matter what you ask of them. You want a minister for women? Here, have a minister for misandry. You want a minister for men? Best I can do is another minister for misandry. You want a minister for LGBTQ pride awareness? Well, looky here, another minister for misandry. If you ask for a minister for fucking kangaroos, they'll give you another minister for misandry. Sort of seems superfluous when the entire family court system is already run by kangaroos. But yeah, I hope by now everyone has got the message. If you have any interest in helping men, or even just not hindering men, if you want to take any path that doesn't involve shitting on men and fucking up their lives, don't ask the government. The government of any given country is a hate machine that follows the path of least resistance in its quest to demoralize and debase the populace it's supposed to be serving. And they all eventually realize that the first step in this process is the debasement and demoralization of men. if you try and do it to women first, the men will object. Men won't let you do it to women. Men love women unconditionally. Men love women far more than they can love any government. But if you do it to men first, you'll have no trouble finding a critical mass of women who are right on board with knocking men down a peg or two, because women love security. Any given society has a critical mass of women who love security more than they love men, and a government can offer them that security, or as it were, the illusion of that security. And a critical mass is all it takes. A handful of women with enough government subsidy can become 4 handfuls by the next generation, 16 handfuls by the following generation, 64 handfuls by the subsequent generation, and so on. Before you know it, the population has succumbed to the zombie apocalypse, and you'll have a great deal of trouble finding any women left over who have any idea what it's like to love men more than they love the government. And by that point, even most of the men have gone along with it as well, because men love women unconditionally. The moral of the story is women are not the enemy. As much as it might look like that, they are merely the first to be hoodwinked by the enemy. The enemy is the serpent. And even in all our ancient mythologies, humanity eventually learned not to trust the serpent. So stop asking the government for help, people. It is a hate machine. If you want to help men, the only thing you should be plugging into this machine is afuera.exe. Don't ask for a minister for men, just abolish the Ministry of Women.
Afuera!
Afuera! Ask not what your country can do for you. Just fucking afuera!
Yeah. The thing that I will point out about this, and that this isn't to say that gynocentrism doesn't exist, but I think it is overrated as an excuse for this shit. Because if it really worked on its own, they would be able to provide the full statistics and still get the result they wanted. But they don't. They only talk about what happens to women. And in Australia, I've seen the government statistics on this. About a third of partner violence caused homicide is done to men. So 2/3 are done to women, about a third are done to men. And that only counts the direct, I'm killing you with a weapon, I'm killing you with poison, blah, 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 that kind of, it only counts direct violence. It doesn't count when somebody creates a threat narrative around a partner and causes somebody else to feel obligated or triggered or whatever, and that person engages in violence that results in the partner's death or ex-partner's death. And it also doesn't count driving somebody to suicide. So this, I will point out, in Australia, the stats that are available easily to me say that between 2011 and 2022, male suicides increased from 16.2 deaths per 100,000 to 18.8 per 100,000 in 2022. Female suicide deaths increased from 5.1 per 100,000 to 5.9 in 2022. And the population of Australia is 26.01 million. So we're talking, over 4,000 suicides of men and boys in Australia. And male suicides make up about 75%, pretty close to 75%. So even if you look at those for both sexes, right? women are the ones more likely to use proxy violence, and women are a lot less likely to commit suicide. And I think part of the reason in domestic violence situations why women are so much less likely to commit suicide is because they can leave, right? They can go get help, and they can use the court system to get out. They can use the court system to get out and actually take property and custody with them. Whereas men who are victims of domestic violence can't. They don't have help from the court system. They don't have help from the domestic violence victims advocacy system. They get perpetrator advice, right? They get redirected to perpetrator programs when they call for help. And so in that situation, men are more likely to just take themselves out of the picture altogether. Right? We're talking about actually over 4,500 suicides annually in Australia. And no, I'm not saying they're all caused by women. But when a man is killed by his partner, he's more likely to be killed by being driven to suicide or by being attacked by somebody that his partner manipulated into it than actually have his partner attack him and kill him. Although that meme I made that we showed last week, the woman or pig meme, at the bottom on the list of characteristics of women, I said might kill you and eat your body. That was in reference to an Australian case. A woman did that. That was real. So when we talk about this kind of stuff, women aren't just, shooting their partner or pushing them over a cliff or weird things like that. Some of it's quite bizarre and violent and crazy. Like, that's just absolutely like Jeffrey Dahmer shit, right? But nobody hears about her because she's not a man. She didn't just kill him and eat him. She tried to feed him to his kids.
Oh.
I appreciate the pig meme, by the way, because as it happens, I choose the man, the bear, and the pig.
That's partly why I selected the pig. And this is also partly because actually pot-bellied pigs are just fucking adorable. They're ugly, but they're adorable.
Kind of like those, pugs. So the only thing I wanted to say about this is that obviously when the government looks to or claims to want to solve some kind of societal issue, they don't have any plans on doing that at all. It's just another way for them to spend money and have more control over your life. But there is an interesting pattern. Again, I can't help but notice. We have been covering on this channel the involvement of the Department of Homeland Security, the FBI, the CIA, and other groups in monitoring manosphere content on the internet. And yes, we are included in that. So, before you say they're not talking about you, they're talking about Tates and Fresh and Fit. No, they're obviously talking about people like us, like Paul Elam, whatever. And in fact, they're already doing stuff to us because the documents that we have looked at is all about ways to suppress our content, redirect people away from our content, and other things. So it's actually more likely that we are a primary focus. And these are government institutions. They have spent a tremendous amount of money to essentially control the content that people see, to move it away from whatever their, the shadows on the wall, as it were, that they want everyone else to look at. And I think that is what's going on with Australia and with the UK and stuff like this as well, except that in those places, like when they make catcalling illegal, or when in Scotland where they made, boasting about your sexual conquest illegal, or in Australia where they're appointing things. See, those countries don't have free speech, so they can just tell you we're going to do this now, and they'll say this is for women, And a lot of women and men will agree. They'll be like, oh yeah, that sounds like a really smart and wise thing to do. Women are constantly getting, brutally attacked by men, and it is a problem. I mean, heck, like we lost about what was the number again? It was like 31 women that one year. That's like crazy numbers, right? So, but I think in a country like the States, you can't do it that way, so you do it in other ways. You do it with Title IX, where you lower the requirements of, I think it was from, they make it easier for people to make allegations. They take it out of the criminal courts. What I'm saying is,
before Title IX did that, the Violence Against Women Act did that.
Yeah, the Violence Against Women Act, right?
Compromise, and that was a Joe Biden gig. Right?
Yeah.
Joe Biden bragged about writing that law. He has bragged several times about writing that law. And that law changed your right to submit exculpatory evidence in a criminal case against you when your accuser is female, and it changed it on the basis that the evidence might embarrass the accuser.
Yeah.
So if somebody's embarrassed that you might have evidence that they lied, you can't submit that evidence.
Right. So what I'm saying is that there's lots of little things going around, and I think this is part of the broader pattern. And I think the internet is sort of like, causing these government organizations to sort of speed up the process of controlling information, which is really what this is about. This is why they demonized Elon Musk for making Twitter even remotely free speech oriented, although I know that people have criticisms of it not being free speechy enough. But I think that this is just another example of that effort. And I hope that, I don't know what to say about Australia, except that you guys are cooked and you need to do something about this. This is ridiculous. But I think that Mike and Hannah have said most of what I would have said about the story itself. I just want to point out that I'm seeing like a broader pattern happening. And I think it's like the reason why. Okay.
To the person who has to listen to all of our content in order to figure out what to censor and what to hold against us, I want you to go back and read about what Stalin did to the people closest to him after he came into power. Just a thing to think about. That's it.
Yeah, seems legit. All right, so let us know what you guys think about this one in the comments. We're going to move on to the next story. But first, I did get another super chow, and I should probably check and see. Oh, yeah, I got a Rumble rant from OIC. Thank you for $1. And he says this.
Afuera!
Thank you, OIC. And I think that is it. I haven't seen any super chats. So I got a super chat from Telemnar for $20. Thank you, Telemnar. And he says, hey, Doc. Enjoy having you on the show every time. You are sounding good today, passionate and articulate, and most of all, incredibly depressing. I find the psychic pain you bring me to be the good kind of pain. It makes me feel so alive. There you go.
I'm like an ice bath. You need the pain to appreciate the pleasure.
There you go. All right. Well, anyway, let us know what you guys think about this one in the comments. We're going to get to the last story. And we may actually get in right on time. So hopefully that will happen. Fingers crossed. All right. So let's get into the last story. This is another follow-up. A lot of follow-ups today. Or at least a couple. So you guys remember Megan Hall, the policewoman that slept with basically the entire force? Do you guys remember that?
She's named Monty now, isn't she?
Yeah, right.
Monty Hall.
Well, we have a follow-up on this story.
Recognize that reference.
Monty Hall. I do know Monty Hall. I know that. Yeah. So the city of Laverne, Tennessee has agreed to pay former police officer, she did lose her job, which is weird, Megan Hall, $500,000, $500,000 as part of a settlement. Hall was at the center of a scandal back in the beginning of, she was in the center of something, that's for sure, of 2023 when it was revealed that she engaged in sexual relations with several fellow officers, both on and off duty, sometimes while on the job, no pun intended. Hall alleges that she was groomed by officers that ranked higher than she was and that she faced sexual harassment and humiliation. While the trial was more than a year away, the city accepted a settlement in which included no admission of guilt on the city's behalf and Hall to receive $500,000. 3 out of 4 city leaders decided to accept the settlement. The lone dissenter, Alderman Dennis Waldron, stated the following about her reasoning, quote, "What message does that send to all the other employees? It's sending a message out to everybody in the world that says, come to Laverne, sue Laverne because they're going to settle," end quote.
It says come to Laverne and fuck your way to $500,000.
Come to Laverne, right?
Come to oh, that's quite a thing.
Hey-o!
I mean, in the old days, you had to divorce a millionaire for that kind of money, or just sperm jack like 10 men each with $100K to their names, or just fuck as many anonymous trailer park baby daddies as possible, and the government will compensate you with everything you need, courtesy of the taxpayers. But as you can see, that whole system has been streamlined. Now it's
Right.
slavery without the extra steps. Just enter any given workforce, groom as many unsuspecting males as you can, and the government will go, well, shit, well done. You say you were the one who was groomed on like 50 separate occasions by 50 different men. Sounds plausible to me. Why, a very similar thing happened to a female teacher quite recently. Thousands of fucking times. Yeah, man, women getting helplessly groomed over and over again is quite the ongoing problem these days, except in small towns in Britain at the hands of certain migrant communities. Coming soon to an America near you. Enjoy your inevitable fate when the worm finally turns, ladies. In the meantime, join us in the game show finale, where you, as a predatory woman, get to join all the predatory politicians in an enclosed wind chamber where money gets blown around and you have to grab hold of as much of it as possible before the time runs out. And unlike the politicians, you also get to grab as much dick as you can in that very same wind tunnel. Well, politicians they're a rowdy bunch as well. I'm sure they too are grabbing all sorts of shit that they shouldn't be grabbing, including actual shit. I wouldn't put it past them, or you for that matter. Yes, you probably eat shit, whatever your name is. I can't remember. And if you don't, you should. That grin we've all seen.
What's up? I muted it. It's muted.
Okay.
I'm just playing it in the background.
Okay.
Mike, can you hear? Or
We could hear it. We could hear it there for a second.
you could? Oh,
Yeah.
that's weird.
But
I
it's
muted
muted
it.
now.
but yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry, Mike. Go ahead. I just wanted to play it so people could see her face. Maybe they'll recognize the person. But go ahead.
Yeah, we've all seen it. What was I talking? I was talking about shit eating, like that grin that we've all seen you sporting, love. It would certainly indicate that you're in the same game as the shit eating politicians. You shit eating, shameless butt munch that you are. Go fuck yourself, and then sue the city for being groomed by your own butt. You fucking butt munch. Leave a comment below, folks.
How many innuendos were in that rant? I lost count of how many. Well,
Okay.
okay.
Well, they're innuendos now. That's terrible. So I just want to express my sympathy for this poor child that was groomed by all of these adults in her class. Oh wait, this was an adult woman. But if only there was some kind of way that a woman could navigate social situations without being groomed for sex like a child and exploited by men against her will. Oh wait, there is. I forgot about that. She was married. She was fucking married.
She was married, and her husband and her are working things out.
And it's not like, there was a system of morality and ethics around sexual contact with other people and loyalty and sexual hygiene, for crying out loud, that's existed throughout human history that might have protected this woman from having sex with 5 different men in the same workplace and then regretting it later and being publicly embarrassed. Oh wait, yes there is. But feminists worked really hard to dismantle it. And they called any public treatment of it, any discussion of it, any reference to it, any imposition of it on women, slut shaming. Right? Maybe slut shaming isn't a bad thing all the time. Maybe it's not. Right? Maybe if women were embarrassed to behave this way, maybe if women were embarrassed to be disloyal, then this woman wouldn't be experiencing this. Of course, she would be, what, $500,000 poorer? Everybody's all upset about Alex Jones getting money as the CEO of his own company that is a pittance in compared to what other CEOs get during a bankruptcy restructuring. How many people are outraged that this professional got about that much for claiming to have been victimized like a child by her colleagues, right? When she uses the word grooming, when the word grooming is used to describe what happened to her, they are calling her a child. And they're talking about her as if she could be isolated socially without her consent, because that is a part of grooming. You get talked into, and this is something that really only a child is naive enough to allow to happen to them, but you get talked into not disclosing what is happening to you, even though you know it is wrong, to the people that would be in the best position to prevent it from continuing to happen, to put a stop to it, to protect you, right? Groomers gain a child's trust. Groomers insinuate themselves into the child's life. These men would have had to insinuate themselves into her personal life to groom her and isolate her from her husband, her supervisors, their supervisors, the public, the ability to seek a job someplace else instead of in this location. They would have had to impose secrecy. They would have had to keep her from telling other people about this. So it's not that I think that this woman doesn't regret what happened. I'm sure she does. I'm sure she's embarrassed that people know about it. But I don't believe for a minute that she was a victim in this. And I don't believe for a minute that she deserves to be treated like their victim. I think she was an active participant. I think that she wrecked her own life, and she wrecked her family, and she wrecked the department. And the men that slept with her are just as culpable for that as she is. And there's equal culpability there in terms of morality. But they got fired. They got publicly humiliated because now everybody knows that they all slept with this butt-ass ugly woman. And she got $500,000, which pretty much makes her an expensive prostitute.
Yeah, right. 100,000. How many dudes was it? Like 5 dudes? Like,
yeah. Did she get burgers and fries?
The whole squad. Yeah, I don't know. But it's. I mean, I think that the guys, they also, the men who did this, were involved with her. That there should be consequences for everyone involved, frankly. And I believe that everybody lost their job, and a couple of guys got suspended. She also lost.
Say something else about this too.
Go ahead.
So this woman played victim of this situation, and people looked at this like it's a rare thing. It's not. This kind of manipulation of a social environment, this kind of taking advantage of a social environment and carelessness within a workplace or another organized social environment is not uncommon. There is a woman in every environment that behaves this way. And guys, avoid her like the plague. If you are in a social environment and you hear from other guys about a woman that will drop her pants for you for very little effort, stay away from her. Don't be alone with her, because she's dangerous. And this is one way in which that can pan out, but it's not the only way. And that's just my advice. If you don't have to work for it, she might not be worth it, you know. And I hate to say that. That's true about men too. If a guy fucks everything in a skirt, he might not be worth two shits either in terms of relationships and relationship status.
Yeah.
You know, so, and this is old advice. This isn't something that I'm just like suddenly realizing today. This is something that boys and girls have been told in their teenage years forever. You don't want to be with the player, male or female, for a lot of reasons, not the least of which is the rampant social disease problem in the world today. But people who are disloyal are disloyal. You're not going to change that, you know, by being with them. So it's just not smart. So stay away.
Yeah, I mean, dude, if you know she's like messing around with other dudes, like she's married, I'm sorry, it's just not worth it. You know, stop, guys, practice some restraint. I'm not talking to the audience. I think you guys get it, but like these cops, holy crap, dude. It wasn't worth it, was it? She's like mid as hell too, by the way. But anyway, let's end the show there. Thanks so much for all your thoughts. I actually got through like, what, 5 stories? Not bad. So we're going to head into the patron show now, hang out with the patrons, and look at the magic clips from the previous show, which is the Rant Zerker. If you want to join us, you have to become a badger by going to feedthebadger.com/subscribe. Or you can just go to feedthebadger.com and navigate there, and you'll get a link to the Discord, which will allow you to watch all of the bonus content as well as lots of additional content. There's lots of activities and things of that nature. So please consider doing that by going to feedthebadger.com/subscribe. And if you want to send us a message after the show, we will endeavor to read on the next show. Then feed Badger Chan by going to feedthebadger.com/just-a-tip and send her a message, and we'll read it for you on the next show. So, all right. With all that said, I want to thank you guys for coming on the show. If you guys like this video, please hit like, subscribe if you're not already subscribed, hit the bell for notifications, leave us a comment. Let us know what you guys think about what we discussed on all of the stories today. And please, please, please share this video, because sharing is caring. Thank you so much for coming on today's episode of HBR News, and we will talk to you all in the next one.
Give me a thank you for feminists for getting your right to vote. Otherwise, stop voting and go make me a ham sandwich.